pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda today is the consent agenda. We have a couple of employments with the Sheriff's Department, secondary roads.
So
minutes from last week.
Did I hear Justin?
Yeah, I'll move that
Change that.
consent agenda.
Okay,
I made the motion.
Is that your second thing, right?
yes, I'll second.
Thanks. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, we have Becky Lanahan and Mitch Kai. This is a public hearing on the amendment to the current county budget for fiscal year 2022-2023, and approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 57-2022. I'll entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman, Supervisor Shea,
Yes.
Belt, Roby,
Yes.
and Schultz.
Aye.
We're now in a public hearing on the amendment to this fiscal year's budget. Is there anyone that would like to speak either in favor or opposed? I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Belt,
Aye.
Shea.
Yep.
Mitch, you want to make a couple of comments on this?
Sure. So the majority of this was coming through was for bond funds that we'd already received in previous years that needed to be amended to be spent this year as they come along. And then there was also expenses that didn't get spent in the previous year because of some supply chain issues. So we had to turn around and put those into this year's budget. Along with that, the other big piece was we were rewarded some FEMA buyout money for some flooded property along the river from the 2019 flood. At least 85% of that be reimbursed to the county. We're hoping that we'll get all of that back, but those are the big changes for this amendment.
We've talked about this a couple of times, so what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution. 57-2022.
We already did. I closed public hearing, right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 57.
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion either from Mitch or Ms. Becky Lanahan on this? Okay, Mr. Hauser, we have a motion and a second. You call the roll, please, on resolution 57.
Chairman Wickman,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt, Roby,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
Aye.
Next up, we still have Becky and Mitch. Discussion decision to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 56-2022 entitled Resolution for Transfer from General Fund to the Veterans Affairs Donations Fund for the sum of $4,163.72.
I'll make a motion.
Mitch, you have any comments on that?
Mostly this is just cleaning up, there's times where the Veterans Affairs gets donations and it's been going to the general fund and sometimes they lose it when the new fiscal year rolls over. So instead we've set up their own fund so they'd stop losing money that was specifically donated to them. So this is just some kind of internal bookkeeping of what was put into the general fund that should be staying with the veterans.
Okay, any questions for Becky or Mitch on that one?
No.
What's the pleasure of the board?
We already got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We got
A motion
we
and
got
a
the
second.
motion.
Mr. Hauser, call the roll.
You're moving too fast for all of us, Tim. You're moving too fast for yourself. Chairman Wickman, Supervisors Belt,
Aye.
and Groby,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
Aye.
Next up, we have resolution 58-2022. This is for transfer from the gaming fund to West Pottawattamie Soul Conservation District and the East Pottawattamie Soul Conservation District Structures Fund.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Mitch, you have any comments on this one?
I don't specifically on this one, Becky, this is just our typical normal course of business, isn't it?
Budgeted each year, and that's
has been for several years.
15 to west and 10,000 to east.
Correct.
West has a lot more PL 566 is the east of us.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Shay.
Aye.
Next up, we have Resolution 59-2022. This is the resolution for transfer from the general basic to the secondary roads fund.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Make sure you have any comments on this one.
Is this a quarterly?
No, this was, we put 2 cents in the
No,
general
this is the
fund.
2-cent transfer to roads from general basic that we did at budget time.
Any other questions for Mr. Becky on this one? Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Shay.
Aye.
Next up, we have Resolution 60-2022. This is a resolution for transfer from the general fund to the general supplemental fund.
So moved.
A second.
Mitch, any comments on this one?
Yeah, so there was, at the time, there was some sufficient funds inside the general, and because of the increased cost of healthcare and health insurance, we thought it was a wise move to move some funds over there to help balance between the two budgets, between the general and general supplemental going into this fiscal year.
Any questions for Mitch or Becky?
Good.
Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
You just read it up, aren't you?
Next up, we have Resolution 61-2022. It's a resolution to transfer from the gaming fund to the property acquisition improvement fund. An amount of $1,200,000.
Motion to approve.
Did I get Shay or Belt? Belt.
Well, Mitch, Becky, any comments on this one?
No, this was, again, this was part of our budgeting going into March into this new fiscal year. The gaming fund had some excess sitting in there, and it could be better deployed and more applicable coming out of the acquisitions fund.
And that plays into our capital improvement plan.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like it's
Not,
not spoken for, it's not
right.
extra funds, okay. Any other questions for Mitch or Becky on that one? No. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
We have a resolution. Yeah.
No.
That's why you get the golden eagle, keep the sun.
Good.
How about, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Hauser, call the roll.
Very good.
That'd help.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
All right, Supervisor Shay.
Hey.
Schultz.
Yes.
Groby. And Belt.
All right.
All right.
All right, now to the highlight of today's agenda. We have Chief Tim Carmody with the Council Bluffs Police Department, Jeff Dillon, Chief Deputy of the Sheriff's Department, an update on the 100-yard shooting range and training center. I don't know who's running the show first, but you guys can shoot it out.
Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing us this time. We appreciate the opportunity. I'm Tim Carmody. I'm the chief in Council Bluffs. I just came to give you an update. I know you have a long agenda, so I'll be brief. Back in 2020, we started talking with the Sheriff's Office about completing a 15-year dream for the training center down south of town. The goal was to add a 100-yard range to that facility, something that was needed in the metro area and serves the whole region. We worked through that process. We developed the plans and process for it and began to implement it. And in the outcome, we came up with a $3 million budget or target. In the end, we just closed out that project. The last invoice was sent over to the county to close it out. And we came in 51,000 under budget from the
How
total.
much under?
51,000.
Okay.
I just wanted to stop today and say
Is that from other counties?
it's a split. I just wanted to stop and say thank you to the Sheriff's Office for the partnership and to the board for your support. As I mentioned, this is for the whole region. Our people use it directly on a regular basis, but overall, this is gonna help law enforcement as they serve their communities all over the region. If you have any questions, I can answer.
I do.
Yes, sir.
You talked about other agencies using it. How's that turning out, and are they contributing into that?
They do. If an outside agency besides R2 comes in, they lease or rent time on the range. To date, we've had hundreds of officers come in from different agencies since October to use that facility. Obviously, it's outside, so it drops off during the winter, but we're seeing that pick up. I think the total, the data that I get is 19 different agencies have come in since then, 10 to 15 shooters on the range at a time, and 200 to 300 law enforcement officers from all over the region are coming in. So we'll see that expand. The only other range that I'm aware of that's of similar size on the other side of the river is Omaha's, and that's surrounded by houses in Elkhorn, so I'm not sure how much longer that's gonna last, so,
Oh,
And we do the Air Force too.
yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise you have to go to Camp Dodgen or something, or what do you have to do?
No, we had to shoot smaller targets on a 50-yard range, and the
Yeah.
sheriff's office would go out to another facility, a small one, to
A
do
private one, yeah.
qualifications. It's really opened up, in talking to our staff, it's really opened up their eyes on what it really looks like to look at a target 100 yards away. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tim, when you talk about the other departments using it, the funds that they provide to use it, is that covering the expenses of the everyday maintenance?
No. All those dollars come back into the training center for maintenance and repairs and staff. We provide a lieutenant, a sergeant full-time, and then we have an administrative person. Half of her time comes out of that as well. That doesn't count maintenance. I've sent the budget out and I don't have it in front of me, but we don't meet that. There's still support that comes in from tax dollars, but it does defray that and bring it down.
Was it 70 or 80,000 last year?
Yes.
Is that our revenue? About 70 or 80,000 last year.
Yes.
What's the normal operations down there then, Monday through Friday then?
No, normal is a strong word, Scott. Especially in our line of work, it's 24/7. So the Air Force frequently comes in during after hours operations. They'll come down and bring a busload of staff from different places off it primarily and use the facility. We'll see law enforcement come in during day and nighttime operations so they can get training in those environments. Usually it's Monday through Friday, but we have operations that occur at other times. And it's accessible for our staff, at other times as well.
You have to man that when they're there, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have a person down there?
No.
No, not at all?
No, we do part-time. They go back and forth. We're half as big as they are.
Right,
And so to cough up that body is just too
okay.
intense. The good news about the Air Force is they're gonna go away in about 2 years. They broke ground on their new range over at Offutt. Their range went down in the 19 flood. Corps just released a contract and they just broke ground on their new range. So in about 2 years, the Air Force will go away. That will lighten the load in the afternoons and evenings.
Should, yep.
It's neat we have that they can use that though.
It's important. It's important to their mission. It's important for the officers that go there to be able to respond to critical incidents and make sure that the citizens in their communities are safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for what you do.
I'll tell you, before I leave this, getting off this board, I'm gonna continue to work to try to get that road hard surface down there. It's Mills County.
Yeah, we gotta get a little bit of Mills County.
Mills County, but I think some of the efforts that Advanced Southwest Iowa is doing is really gonna probably make that a reality pretty soon. So
That'd be awesome.
hopefully that'll help everybody.
Having that connection would make a big difference.
But,
We are working on it.
Perfect.
just invite Tim down there more, cause his truck gets dirty and then he
Yep.
pushes him more further.
It isn't as much the dirt and the gravel as the big potholes seem to come. We haven't had rain in so long, so it's finally coming back around.
And as was mentioned, the police department is twice the size of the sheriff's department, so whoever uses the road, the motion call will kick in.
I'll let you work that out with the city council, sir.
That's,
We
Have a great day.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
most of them come off the interstate, right? They don't-
Yeah.
They don't come up the,
Generally, yes.
yeah, they don't come up.
I mean, we'll see Mills County come from different places. There's other agencies that use it, yeah. Yep.
Chief Carmody, Chief Deputy Dillon, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Thanks for the update, guys.
You bet.
Okay. What's that say?
They gave us one last one.
We could do that again. I don't know if that's that would require, Dan coming in. All right, moving forward, we have, next up, we have Paula Hazelwood of Advanced Southwest Iowa, and discussion decision to recommend and request financial allocation of grant writing services. Is your partner working with you on this discussion? Miss Brenda Mainwaring.
I'm here to answer questions.
Okay.
So I don't have the agenda in front of me. Is there a resolution attached to?
Second part of it.
Second part, okay. Can I talk about kind of all of them collectively? Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Because I rolled that part of it actually into the resolution. So will that work?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So back again, obviously, to talk about the Rural Pottawattamie County Infrastructure Coalition. Really thank you to the Board of Supervisors for your ongoing support with this. So this model really has been a proactive and progressive model, and I know that other communities are looking to potentially adopt something similar. But for us, it's been really a tremendous exercise. We've really gotten to know the rural communities, what their needs are, and obviously I think we're going to be poised for success. So the mission of the Infrastructure Coalition obviously was to go out, meet with all the communities, identify city improvement projects that they currently have in their pipeline or kind of dream projects that they would wish to bring forth in the future. This was all being done basically for the prosperity and betterment of the entire county as a collective. And again, the initiative has been great, and I feel that it's gone very, very successful. The model that we built out, we really didn't know what it was going to look like. So I know Supervisor Belt and Matt Wyatt brought this information to Brenda at the Iowa West Foundation. But I thank all of you for that because, I mean, it was a vision, right? And we did not know how it was going to turn out. But it's actually turned out great. So thank you guys again for that. So just to recap, we broke it down when we put the model together and decided exactly how it was going to flow. We put it together in 3 phases. The phase 1 was to obviously identify a consultant. We needed a consultant working with us side by side with Golden Hills RC&D. McClure Engineering was selected based off an RFP process that we put forth. Obviously, Golden Hills RC&D was brought in. The county supported their endeavors, and the first phase was to go out and meet with the city clerks and mayors of each of the communities and kind of a fact-finding mission, basically. But what we were able to do is grab all of that information and put it into a really, really key spreadsheet that we have on a Google Doc, and I've shared that Google Doc with all of you, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. But what that identified was over $100 million in projects, which is, you know, that's a lot of projects. So phase 2, transitioning into phase 2, and I'll back up just a minute. So we were looking for infrastructure projects, but we also looked at housing, and we also looked at placemaking, quality of life projects as well. But very, very quickly, the infrastructure projects rose to the surface. So. Once all of that data was collected, we've been in here numerous times reporting to you on that information. We transitioned into phase 2, and that's really where the advanced team stepped in and started working with McClure, the engineer, to take all of that data and then work with them, really looking at what projects are ready to go. Projects in the pipeline that have, you know, they've ramped up, they've done some engineering work, they've spent community dollars already to get the project to a state where we thought that it would actually fit and be able to be utilized because we have a deadline of 2026 to use the ARPA dollars. And so that was a key critical component of it. You guys have heard that numerous times. Bethany and her team from McClure have been in here talking about that. And so filtering it down based on the impact and obviously the ARPA timelines that are implemented as of today anyways. Carter Lake, water main repair and replacement, Crescent, mandatory sewer improvements, Hancock, water treatment repairs, lagoons, McClellan, water distribution study, Trainer, mandatory sewer improvements. So those 6 projects, $12.3 million. collectively to make those happen. So we feel that the use of the ARPA funds this is a great impactful project for the county to partner with us and undertake. And also in partnership with the Iowa West Foundation as well. So do you want to talk, or can you want me to say it, or you want to say it? 1-to-1 match is what they're looking to do. So the resolution that I put together basically highlights two components: the ongoing support from the County Board of Supervisors, and then allocating the $1.5 million from the ARPA funds to be utilized as match components for not only ARPA, but potentially other federal programs that could assist in the stack that we need to get these projects accomplished. I did send the resolution to not only Chairman Wickman, but also to Mr. Wilbur for review and edits, and Mr. Wilbur did approve, and I believe that's what you have in your packets today. And so, we're really asking for both pieces of support. Phase 3 then, the transition that Tim talked about on the agenda item, we're at a critical stage where we need to work with each community of these 6 communities one-on-one to put together competitive grant applications. We talked about this when we were here last time. We think it's important not to just stop and say, okay, you're on your own. We need to work with them. We need McClure to work with them. They have the knowledge, they have the skill set, and obviously they're a consultant that works in the infrastructure realm a lot, so they know these applications. And so part of the resolution, my recommendation is to continue utilizing McClure because of obviously their active work and their connections. We did ask them to provide a amended contract for those services. They came in at $150,000. I'm estimating, so when we started the initiative, the Iowa West Foundation put in $100,000 for us to be able to do phase 1 and phase 2. We've used about $61,000 as of the end of July. I anticipate after we pay the expenses for August and September, we'll have about $25,000 left of that, and that'll roll into phase 3. So that'll go towards that projected $150 for grant application preparation. So we're asking the county also to do a one-on-one match, whatever that ends up being, if it's 75, if it's 50. I can't tell you at this point because we don't know yet the time consumption, and we're going to be billed from McClure on an hourly rate, which is how the original contract is set up. So, do you have any questions on that?
Would it be more beneficial then just to approve like an up to amount, and then that way you don't have to keep coming back?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 75 would be great, that one-to-one match. And then at the end of all of this, and I say that kind of, cheek and tongue, because this will never be over for us. This is a model we're going to keep on utilizing. Not that we're always going to come back to the county and ask you, for dollars. But if there is any funding left in the pot, and the county is the pass-through from the foundation. So Matt Wyan and I have a system that it has been working great. So I would say 75,000, just to be on the safe side for phase 3 of that.
So is McClure gonna do the grant writing then?
They're going to assist each communities with the grant writing, yes. And also, I would say the grant writing is going to be detailed enough, but I would say the attachments that have to go to each and every one of the applications is going to be pretty healthy. So they'll assist with all of that. We don't have, as a staff, the bandwidth for that,
Oh,
Scott.
no,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
But some of the communities, if I remember correctly, were working with McClure already and some were not.
The city of Crescent has been working with McClure Engineering. So there's probably, well, not probably, there is some of that information already probably prepared. But each community is a little bit different. I would say we have some city clerks that are pretty versed, and Michael's sitting back here in grant writing and preparation. Does that mean he's not going to need any help or assistance? I don't think so. And so we're still going to be there for them and each other community that's on this top list of 6 projects.
Right, and they'll have to work with, was it JEO that you had?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with JEO, but I would actually say the same thing and just reiterate that I think McClure's involvement in this process with many of the communities, whether it's ours or not, is well needed. So
Yeah.
I
And
support.
beneficial, yeah.
But they'll have to coordinate with their contractor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and there'll be a process put in place, Scott, and we'll start, I'm sure, scheduling those meetings to launch into phase 3 with each of them, and just, the first part is determining exactly what's already been done, and then, obviously making a timetable for what needs to be accomplished. And the end result would be the submittal dates, so.
So just to clarify our contribution, we allocated in the last grant cycle 1.5 and 100 for the match for the actual projects, 1.5 million up to 100,000 for a match for phase 3, which is finishing this out. Paula and her team have done a great job managing McClure so that she has money left from the initial part of this. That goes to pay the first bills.
Yes.
No strings attached, just whatever's left, that pays the first bills that come in from McClure. Whatever then remains, based on Paula's management, up to potentially 125,
yeah.
assuming that you have 25 left to put towards it, then we split that 1-to-1 with the county. And again,
would go
Paula
back.
will kind of manage how that outflow goes. Our allocation is up to 100. I think what you're saying is up to 75 is what you're looking from.
From the county, yes.
From the county.
The one, thank you,
I
yes.
just wanna make sure 75 is gonna cover what you need.
That's,
Yeah, I do believe it will, and just because the management and the way that we're built, I have a spreadsheet that I'm tracking everything in, so we should be good. And, Justin, if we're not, then I will have to come back and say, okay,
Yeah,
well,
just
we're 25 short, but,
Steps would be easier, that's all, but if 75 will do it.
yeah.
You need I guess, you wanna keep going, or is that already?
No, I was just gonna ask if there were any additional questions, and again, thank you all. I mean, this has been a tremendous process, and I think just the impact that these projects will make for the county is substantial.
Brenda, will the 1.5, will that be through the city's program or a separate?
I think we'll handle it separately.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 64, 2022.
What is that,
Is that
wait
right?
a second, no.
Am I in the wrong one?
Yeah, I would
I'm
like you
sorry.
to take that on item D, Justin.
I'm on the wrong sheet. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry, I messed you up,
No,
rolled everything in together.
We have a script, and then we have our agenda, and that was on the wrong one. So anyway, sorry. So let's go back. Item D. So I'd like to make the recommendation we approve the financial allocation for grant writing services to accompany the RPCIC initiative in the amount of $75,000. But I'd like to ask that it come from gaming. The reason why is I don't feel like taking out of ARPA doesn't allow us to stretch those ARPA dollars a little bit further. So that'd be.
I'd agree with that and second that.
Okay. I made a mistake. I didn't introduce Shalimar Mazetis with
Oh,
the Rural Development of the Southwest Iowa. Do you have any comments you'd like to make on that?
No, it's just going really well and the towns are feeling really supported, I think, so.
It's
great.
going to be important that we follow up and make sure that they get the support they need to
Absolutely.
get a successful grant done.
Yeah, and we're committed to that.
Okay.
And so is McClure, they've been great.
I have one comment, and I made this last time we had the folks come, I guess if there's other projects that maybe aren't in the name or the vein of ARPA, I think, if there's something we can partner on, we still want to make sure those are coming to us. It's not just because we didn't approve of this round of ARPA money that we don't care. It's just that we allocated those dollars for that purpose, but there are other revenue streams that we can use to help do some of these other things. So I just urge you to make sure the communities know that when you're talking to them, that just because something might be $100,000 and doesn't necessarily fit ARPA, that might be something that the county's still interested in partnering.
I will say, when we had our meetings individually with the towns and the mayors, part of what McClure did was go through what their projects were and pointed out to them the different funding sources that could be
Yeah.
available.
I think Paula mentioned that you guys.
So they already have gone over it and said here, 6 different, now, we have grant writing services that they could utilize if they're not well versed in it, so on and so forth.
Well, if there's because one thing that I know is that city clerks are probably some of the hardest working people ever. And they have a lot on their plate, and I think sometimes if they need that little nudge, like please give them that little nudge that we can help.
Okay, absolutely. And Shelmer, just real quickly, do you want to talk about the bus tour? Because I think that's a really good component.
So through all of this, the one thing that I've kind of noticed is unless you have a city clerk that has connections to Des Moines already, most of my city clerks and mayors and city council don't have any connections to the biggest agencies in Des Moines. They're talking to somebody who's maybe an entry-level person, so it changes frequently, or they don't end up with the same email address, or the person isn't there in their role for more than 2 years. So kind of through this work, Bethany and I came up with the idea to do a rural bus tour. We're gonna do it on November 10th. We'd like to have 1 or 2 of you join us. We know we can't have all 5. But we would like to have 1 or 2 of you join us November 10th. We're gonna leave at 8 a.m. We're gonna go to Des Moines. We're going to meet with IEDA, USDA, and DNR, Department of Cultural Affairs, and DOT. And we're meeting with their senior leadership all in one day. It's gonna be a labor-intensive day, but we are gonna, try to make it fun on the way home. But it will be a day
Whatever
that
that
starts at 8, we leave at 8 a.m. and we leave Des Moines at 5 and get back at 6:30.
We're not bumping people's seats that are really
It-
important.
no.
All of us can go, we just have to,
Yeah.
just a procedure we gotta do on our side.
Well, then we would, honestly, I think it would make it even more beneficial for the city clerks and whoever they get to attend. I am going to really, really push, and I think Michael will agree with me, to have city clerks go.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an area that sometimes the mayor or the city council takes on and they're like, oh, well, the clerk can stay here and keep the office open. I really feel like it's important that the city clerks go because they're the ones that are talking to these people on a regular basis. And I want to get them in front of them and sit down. So it's an hour-long meeting with each one of those people. We'll provide lunch. We have had TS Bank and McClure have both sponsored it, and we're working on one more sponsorship to hopefully get the whole thing paid for by sponsorships.
Yep.
Bus rentals are expensive, in case you didn't know that. They're like $1,900 for a day. So we're working on partnering that together, and we would really love to invite all of you to come, and we think it's gonna be a really beneficial day, and that just gives more time for you guys to talk to the cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So duly noted, Supervisor Schultz, we will, and we know, obviously the $100 million projects that I mentioned early on, there's a bunch out there, so, and we'll, I'm sure, be bringing you some other ones outside of the 6.
So mark November 10th down,
Yeah.
Okay,
all day, you're mine.
thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So they're gonna be looking, McClure's gonna be writing for grants, but loans are a lot easier to get than grants, and I think will they also be looking at loans?
They will.
Low
Yep.
interest, okay.
Absolutely.
However, the
It's a lot
capital
easier.
The SRG and all of those things that have been talked, exactly. However, the capital stack works to get it done.
Okay, so Supervisor Schultz, you made the motion, was that up to $75,000 that it gave you?
Again, yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion with any of our partners that are here today? Any discussion with the board? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, now Supervisor Schultz is the Resolution 64, 2022, which authorizes the board to allocate $1.5 million of ARPA funds towards these projects.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 6422.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion with our team members that are here? Okay, we have a
Go
motion.
help grow these little towns. They really do. Oh, and I wanted to say, Michael's manager of the city, right?
Yes.
Not city clerk.
No, I want city clerks or managers, whatever their
Actually, by title, I
administrator.
am actually a clerk as well. That's, a lot of these small towns do this and they divide, but I'm smart enough to delegate out and make all the hard work go to the lady that you're talking about, so. Thank you for the title of both.
Yeah.
And I am not going on a motorcycle with you,
Ever?
I didn't say ever.
Okay,
Take pictures.
sounds good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Yes.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Shea.
Aye.
You're
Good
welcome-
job.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like.
That's
Oh,
exciting to be.
We're okay, I think.
I know it is.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes,
you know, I
thank you
guess
so very much.
I do wanna make the statement then, I thank you for getting this knocked out, or, the work that you've all done on this. This has been a very difficult process. There's a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts about how this money should be spent. I think the way we went about it was very professional, and I think that we've tackled some key important issues here, and I guess the only regret that I have is that it took so long. And that's not on you, it's just this is how these things work. And, you know, Tom Hanfin told me one day that government, you should never put government and efficiency in the same sentence, because it never works out. But,
It went slow, but it went well.
it did. And I
It's a
think
process, for
why.
sure.
It took so long and it came out very quality product, so thank you.
Good job.
It's good. Helping those small communities grow is gonna be an ongoing process.
I hear you.
We've got to grow.
Yep, we will. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
This,
Put the gesture on.
this is
Okay, do we have Amy? Awesome. You're representing Summit Carbon Solutions, presentation to the board on the project update for Summit Carbon Solutions. Kaylee, you're up.
Great.
The city has means to staff to help in any way possible.
You guys mind if I just sit over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
And I was gonna
doesn't
pass a
really
few
give our
things out to you guys, if that's okay.
Because we're not-
You're clear on that.
Okay, so I have 3 handouts here for each of you.
Tell you what, wait, you only
yeah,
have total
they're-
3?
Total 3, yeah.
You guys take them, because I'm very well spun up on this.
Oh, okay,
Being that
gotcha.
I work in that industry.
All right, here you go. So,
I had this presentation already.
oh, okay, awesome. One of them is specific to Pottawattamie County. The other one's a project map for Pottawattamie County. And then the last one that has Iowa at the top, that just has some information on
I
it.
can pull these up on here.
Okay, yeah, you can do that, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want? Sure. Okay, here you go. Okay. So I just want to start by, of course, thanking you guys for your time and introducing myself and Riley. We both work for Turnkey Logistics, representing Summit Carbon Solutions, mainly in non-environmental permitting, so road crossing permits, stuff like that. We've both been in contact with John, the county engineer, just making sure that we get all the requirements that he wants for road crossing permits. However, this is my full-time job, so going around to county boards, giving informational meetings, answering questions. So really 3 things I want to go over today. Number 1, why Summit Carbon Solutions is pursuing this project. Number 2, we'll talk about the tax numbers on this handout here. And then lastly, we'll just kind of go over a brief project update. So starting with why Summit Carbon Solutions is pursuing the project, that can really be explained in 2 ways. So the parent company of Summit Carbon Solutions is Summit Ag, which you guys probably know is a large farming company based in Iowa. And then second, the strong ties between the ag industry and the ethanol industry, especially in the Midwest, especially in Iowa. You can see on this handout here, 57% of corn grown in Iowa goes to the ethanol plants. So that's a pretty significant market. And with this project, once it's completed, we do expect the ethanol plants to be able to sell into growing markets that we expect to continue to grow, and the corn producer would be able to sell their corn for a premium. Without this project, on the other hand, what we would expect to see is the ethanol plants begin to struggle, in turn corn producers struggle, and that kind of creates a ripple effect across communities that we don't want to see, definitely Summit Ag doesn't want to see as a farming company in Iowa. So really that's why Summit Carbon Solutions was created, with the goal to keep the ethanol plants running and keep corn viable long-term into the future. So with that said, just move on to the tax numbers on this handout here. These are estimates provided by Ernst & Young based on the construction and operations costs of our project. So I'll just kind of go over Pottawattamie County specifically.
we have a full 60-page report on our website if you guys want to look into that and look at Iowa. But for Pottawattamie County, the estimated total investment is almost $23 million. And then the new annual property taxes would be around $878,000, and that would be an ad valorem tax. So with that, I'll move on to the project update. As far as construction, we do expect construction to start in late summer of 2023, so about a year from now. As far as easement acquisition in Pottawattamie County, we are at around 70% of easement miles acquired. And then permitting, kind of went over that. We're working with John right now, collecting information and requirements. We are submitting permits in some counties, so I'm sure Pottawattamie County isn't far away. But we have not submitted any permits in this county yet. As far as investors and partnerships, you can kind of see that on the top of this handout here that says Iowa at the top. Just a couple of the larger investors, John Deere, Continental Resources. And then we have 32 ethanol plant partners as of today across 5 states. And Summit Carbon Solutions, 5 states would be Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. And then I guess the last thing I would touch on is community investment. So since Summit Carbon Solutions is home-based in Ames, Iowa. So we do consider ourselves neighbors, members of the community. So we are trying to plug into communities, whether that be through donations or volunteering. So I have my name and contact information at the bottom of this page under community investment. So if you guys can think of anything, please feel free to reach out. But with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have.
I'm gonna challenge you a couple things real quick.
Okay.
So, first off, carbon sequestration, there's a tax credit that's out there called 45Q. 45Q was somewhere around $45 to $50 or somewhere in that neighborhood. And then just recently with the legislation that passed about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that number has gone up substantially. So you made a statement that, if ethanol plants struggle, farmers struggle. Well, you're right. I think, the similar numbers there, 57% of corn, that can be debated a million times. But I think overall that if the farmer doesn't have the market to take the corn to, then obviously it's a struggle and the price of corn goes down and then it becomes worse. But I'd be I guess where I'm cautious is that this is a tax credit that is worth a substantial amount of money. Employer that I have, we produce about 1,300 to 1,400 tons of CO2 per day. And if we're ranging somewhere in the $80 per ton, that's significant money. So I think while there's a part of this that helps the farmers with this initial investment, it helps the county because you're putting this in the ground, I think the ongoing benefit goes to the private entity. So I'm going to get back to why this board before talked about the eminent domain situation before, is that it was a private purpose. So this isn't a public entity, this is a private entity, and I think that's ultimately why we ended up saying that we don't support eminent domain. Now, just to clarify, that does not mean that we don't support carbon sequestration and lowering the carbon footprints of any industrial element that's out there in our state. And I think everyone can agree that we support that. I just think that the idea of us going and saying, well, we're going to use eminent domain to take this property to put this pipeline there is a very difficult bill for us to swallow, which thankfully for this board, that decision rests with the Iowa Utilities Board and not us. But on the flip side of it, we got to be cognizant because these are our residents and it does affect them. So it's good to hear that you've got 70% of the people, supportive of that. I think that's great. I hope it comes down to everyone that's involved in this supports it 100% and we're good. And you guys come to some agreement that it works. But I want to make it known that this is not just only helping the farmer situation, because it really, this tax credit is significant money that's going to go to your organization when this happens. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, if I could respond to that.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it is a business. We do have employees to pay, but we are also covering all the facilities that we're adding to the ethanol plants. Everything is being paid for up front for the ethanol plant. But you are right. I'm not going to take anything away from that. As far as eminent domain, like you said, That rests with the Iowa Utility Board. We are very happy that we have 70% acquired in this county as of today with a year left, because that's not going to stop our land agents from working and trying to make deals, So we do hope to not have to use eminent domain. We don't want to do that either, so.
Well, and then just to support your side, on the other side of this is that, if ethanol plants are able to take advantage of this carbon sequestration, what that does is it lowers what they call CI score, so it's your carbon index. That score gets low enough simply by this process that they're able to sell to low carbon markets. So you're able to sell to California, Oregon, Washington, states out west that are, have that requirement. What that does then is it opens up a whole new market space that these ethanol plants didn't have before. And that dollar is going back to the investors, which place that I work, there's over 800 local investors in there. So if you get the idea that if that company were able to take advantage of the low carbon market, the money comes back to the farmers too in the end. So, I mean, it is a big, there is a circle here, but my comments about the tax credit is, it is a private thing. But I do see the benefits on both sides.
Will you reapproach these people with the added funding that's out there, tax credits and all that? Will you reapproach these people the 30%?
So, yeah, our land agents, just because, we have a lot of people that don't want to talk to us initially. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to make repeated contact to make deals with the landowners. And that's another reason why we come to these board meetings, in hopes that the public will show up, and we know that you guys, speak for the public. So just to kind of talk about the things that can be negotiated in those easements. Just talk about a couple of them. The depth of pipe in the ground, we are willing to go lower if that's what the landowner wants. The price of the easement. There's a whole section in the easement where the landowner can really add anything that they want, as if they don't think something's specific enough or they don't see something in there. And we encourage people, talk to your family lawyer. Do that kind of thing. Go through the easement, make sure it's exactly how you want it. Because once it is signed, that's it, So
you've got 70% signed?
Yes. That is correct.
Of the mileage.
Yes.
I guess, the mileage. It may not be exactly.
I think it's a little bit, as far as agreements executed, so the mileage would be a little bit different percentage than the agreements. The agreements, I think, is around 71 of the agreements we need %, so.
Is the majority, if this pipeline goes in, is the majority of the route along Highway 59?
I would have to look at that.
Yeah, it looks like it cuts, we cross 59, looks like just south of Hancock. But it looks like we parallel, looks like we're maybe 1.5 miles west of it for the most part until we cross it just south of Hancock. Then we're well away from it as it trails, looks like towards Avoca.
Okay. I mean, most people in this county know that Highway 59 is a state highway. Mm-hmm. Has there been any thought to putting it in the easement or the state right away for Highway 59?
So we have a specific person that's working with the Iowa DOT as far as that goes. So we have constant contact with DOT as far as crossing that roadway. Does that answer your question, or?
Oh, yeah, I'm just curious.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is these lines you don't necessarily want to run right into the municipality either.
That's what I was
Safety elements that go along with it.
We don't want them to go through them little towns.
Well, I mean, there's.
A lot of Highway 59 isn't in a small town.
No, I guess I think the reason that they're not using Highway 59 proper for the whole thing, because you could, is just because it does hit those Hancock, Oakland, then you go down south, you have to hit some others.
Carson.
Yeah, we are trying to stay away from larger towns as much as possible.
I think that's another big concern that this board always has, from our perspective, what we always hear is, well, what happens if this thing blows up? Well, I mean, I know the answer to that, but it's very, I think that is one of the biggest concerns the public has. Mm-hmm. What happens if there is a leak? What happens if the line does rupture? How do you shut it off? What are the second, third order effects of that? Now, some of us went to the meeting that you guys had out in Oakland some time ago, and you know, it's addressed that you have to have an emergency action plan and you have to follow it to a T. But I think, you know, getting that understanding of the safety behind this is critical to getting buy-in from any of these residents out there. You know, and that question needs to be answered. What happens if this line does break? We had a resident come last week that was with with an organization or representing some comments made by an organization that held a meeting here recently, and the comments were, you know, and you're dealing with the same organization that comes to all your public meetings and expresses their opposition to this project, but I think the questions need to be answered. What happens if this line does rupture? What do you do? How's this gonna affect everybody? And you get that message out there, I think you're gonna have an easier time.
Yeah, that's one thing, you know, we've done a lot of these. It's this Turnkey's first round of doing these throughout the entire project. And that's the main thing we've heard is safety concerns. So we do want to get that message out. We're highly regulated. That's been something that's kind of been spread around that we're not regulated. We are regulated just like a gas or oil pipeline. So we'll have to fly the line bi-weekly to watch over it. We'll have people living and working locally to maintain the line. I have his name actually listed on here. Dillon is our Director of Regulatory Compliance. He's really handling all the safety stuff right now, and they're hiring someone to help him as well. But he's making contact with all of the emergency managers of each county. I think he has in this county as well.
Yeah, Rob, is he the emergency manager for Pottawattamie County, is that correct?
Doug Reed is our...
Doug, maybe it was Doug, yes. I spoke to somebody at ISAC. I believe he was the emergency manager, but my name memory is not so good. But he had met with Dillon, and, you know, Rod was kind of helping facilitate some of these things. You know, what are your needs? What can we help you with? And kind of facilitating some of the safety aspects of it with the emergency managing crews amongst the counties that we're passing through, so.
But we will be doing, like, Rod's job is to contact the emergency managers, and then we'll have training with the emergency response in these counties and towns that are close to the pipeline. And then once we get our local staff hired, they will do trainings together. So it's, you know, they would know who they're working with if something, in the unlikely event that there was a breach in the line.
I got a question about your mainline valves.
Mm-hmm.
Those are monitored remotely.
Yes, so they are automatic shutoff valves. We also have people in Ames watching them 24/7. So
I guess my thinking is, for a safety concern of the people in the county, wouldn't it be better to have a few more of those?
That's another thing where the regulations come in. It was recently passed or added to the PHMSA regulations that they have to be every 20 miles, I believe. And so we've done that, and then around like large waterways, and it looks like we have two right here next to 59. So every 20 miles is how we have them, unless there's a waterway or a large road or an ethanol plant, something like that. So
I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're one of 3 or 4 companies that are doing this in the state. How does it work with other pipelines that are potentially coming through? So do you just end up tying into the same line and you just meter out the carbon dioxide, or is it just separate?
We all have our separate lines. So, but we are very aware of what, like, Navigator, for example, is doing. So we're in contact with them. And we know what they're doing. They know what we're doing. So we don't necessarily look at it as a competition. We try to work together to make sure that we're not getting in each other's way, I guess is what you would say.
Okay. So they would run their own separate line for North Dakota?
They're actually going to Illinois. So they have their line is completely different. Where they're sequestering is in somewhere in Illinois, and we are sequestering up in North Dakota.
Basically, it's rock formations that are in the ground that allow for it.
How much capacity is there to store in the ground?
There is a lot. I know that we have a ton more space. So we have these 32 ethanol plants, and we could service plenty more. I don't know the exact number. I can get it for you if you'll write that down. But there's tons of space.
They secured enough property, I believe. I was talking to Bruce Raston or whatever about it. They secured enough property up there that they could pretty much cover every single ethanol plant for a period of more than, I think it's like 20 years or something before they
Do you
have to worry
use-
about getting more.
Do they pump that into the ground for oil extraction also?
No, that's another thing that's brought up. That would, I don't believe we could get the 45Q tax. I mean, the whole business model would be, I'm having trouble with words today, sorry. But our business model would not work if we use it for enhanced oil recovery. There's also not enhanced oil recovery in that area for us to have that process.
Basically, the concept behind this is that the carbon dioxide goes in, they pump it deep into the ground into these, I guess, for lack of a better word, caverns. It fills up, stays there for a long period of time, and it solidifies. So it ultimately ends up becoming like a limestone type solid.
Okay.
And so like, right now, it's just empty, unused space, and it's a way that we can get that carbon out of the air and put it somewhere else.
What about groundwater at storage? At the storage point?
I can look into that. I'm sure they have that. We've leased the space, so I'm sure that I'm not a scientist, obviously. My thing is I know a little bit about everything, not a lot about any one thing, but I can definitely get the answer for that. I don't think there's any concern about the groundwater in that area, but I can figure out what kind of studies they've done.
So right,
Yeah, it's like deep, like a mile below the surface. It may not be
right
exact.
now, we just let that go in the atmosphere, correct? All of this. And like you're saying, 1,300 to 1,400 tons a day?
For a plant that's our size, we're, I don't know, roughly 130 million, 135 million gallons a year plant.
How many tons do you look to move in a year?
Short answer, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we can.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. I think what we'll be running at, like, we're not close to our capacity yet. I think we have the capacity to run like 2,200 PSI, something like that, like, and we're like half of that. So I think they said something, I saw it somewhere, it's gonna be the equivalent of like, it was something like 16 million cars a year or something in that ball. I forget the exact number, but the capacity, it's gonna move quite a bit of CO2 out of the atmosphere that would generally be pumping into the atmosphere back underground. So it's quite a bit.
I just want to say, I'm against eminent domain for this. I'd rather see you guys redress this and go to each individual and try again, whatever you need. I think that's important as a private company. Eminent domain is a very specific public process.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah. Well, right now we don't have the path to eminent domain. Our permit has not been given to us yet. We hope to have that decision made in June of 2023. But like I said, our land agents are out there right now making voluntary deals with landowners. So it's not that we've used eminent domain yet or that we want to. We really hope to have 100% voluntary acquisition. It may not be a possibility, but with 70% in the county, we sure hope that we can get 100% voluntarily without using the eminent domain.
Is there carbon pipelines in the US at some other states or something that have done this?
Yes, I think they're mostly in the south. I'm not 100% sure, but there
Texas,
are like
Mississippi.
5,000 miles of carbon
So there's
pipelines
plants
already.
on the eastern side of Iowa that have been doing this for years.
Piping it?
Yeah, it's their competitor. It goes over to, I keep wanting to say Peoria, but it's somewhere in South Illinois. They got that rock formation there, but ADM has already signed on to them doing it now. So
I just, our towns, I don't think, that are close to it, have the capacity or the training probably to respond to an incident if there is one. I don't know how.
yeah, it's tough because I mean the great debate is, okay, if it ruptures, what happens? It's CO2, so I mean common sense would tell you it's going to go up into the atmosphere, and that's what it was doing before anyway. But then the other scare is, well, if it hits groundwater, then you can run the risk of carbonic acid poisoning water supplies, and then that's a whole other process to clean that up. But they're required to have a plan in place to mitigate that. So
Who is?
Trust the government.
Their-
Summit,
their
yes.
government?
Trust the government.
Those are each individual town.
We are required by PHMSA to have a plan in place.
Do you help the little town fire departments?
So that's part of Rod Dillon's job as well. He's going around talking to the emergency managers, asking them what they need in order to be able to fulfill those duties, you know, and he's also doing those trainings with them. So if something's needed, and really at the end of the day, what would be requested of the local emergency response is just to block off the area. So
Okay, my next question is, what product is the pipe?
it's high carbon steel.
Yep, gonna be a 6-inch line running through Pottawattamie County. It's gonna be, high carbon steel. I mean, very, very dense, heavy steel line.
What PSI can it handle?
2200,
Yeah,
I think
let's-
is the max. 22, 24.
It can handle quite a bit.
And what are your average PSIs on that line?
So our PSI ranges from, I think, 1300 PSI to the 2200. For what the line can hold maximum, I'm not sure, but I know that when we are testing the line, we have to run it at max capacity for like 2 hours or something like that. So there's before this line is put in the ground, it's gonna be tested in multiple ways. Every single weld is gonna be x-rayed. It's gonna be hydro tested, which is what I was talking about, underwater, to see if there's any leaks with max pressure, for a long period of time. I mean, we really are required to do a lot before this line goes in the ground.
We're gonna run tools through it, smart tools, cleaning tools. We're required by regulation to run them through at a certain period of time, just kind of like flying over the line, checking for leaks, but we'll run like the smart pigs and stuff through them. I think that it's either every other year or every 4 years, but they're gonna keep pretty good track of it. The monitoring system that we'll have in place can detect like even the smallest little change to where, it's alerting valve systems to shut off or anything like that. So,
What's a question for you, the carbon steel, that's what you're saying too. So what's the lifespan of that? I'm a little concerned about that, just working in the ethanol industry. We did all carbon steel when we built our plant, and we quickly learned that was a mistake. So I'm curious.
So it has
how long is it gonna last
cathartic.
underground? What kind of coatings are you using? And what
Cathodic protection, so it's gonna have that kind of, based on the soil, we're doing soil testing right now.
just what they've done is, and it's pretty, they're doing it in pretty close increments, so they're getting a very good set of soil testing throughout, every county we run through. And basically looking at soil contents and, based off the soil contents, they're developing the coating for the line. So, if areas have different soil contents, different.
more acidic or something?
Yeah, more acidic, different pH balances. They're developing that coating specifically for each area. So I think it's gonna be pretty, standard across the board to have varying coatings based on soil contents and depth of pipe and,
I guess I'll make it back to the question though. So if it's 10 years, 20 years, you've got this agreement, this easement, and we're trying to continue to expand our small towns and get them bigger, nicer, all that. At what point you got to replace pipe? You can just go in and do that because you've got the access rights. And I know the conversation is, well, we're gonna work with the landowners. We're not gonna do it in the middle of while they got crops up or whatever. I understand that, but I guess my curiosity is, what is your target lifespan of these lines? Is it 25 years, 50 years, 5 years? I mean, what's your target?
I
That's
do.
gonna help us plan a little bit.
Yeah, I do know that there are carbon CO2 lines that have been in the ground for 30 years at this point. So I would say probably what we're doing is following the lead of them to make sure that we're getting the right pipe in the ground. This is something that we didn't just say, hey, we want high carbon steel. It's something that other people are doing and it's working for them, so.
So I'm gonna ask another question. Let's just give you a hypothetical real quick. Let's just say there's a change in administration and carbon sequestration is no longer a thing. The 45Q goes away. Then what? What are the plans after that pipeline if you're not using it for CO2 purposes? I mean, are there other purposes that can be used for that you've already worked out? Or is it just, do you have to take it out of the ground?
So the landowner, that's another power the landowner has. If they want us to take it out of their ground, if to say like we went bankrupt or something like that, they can have that placed in the easement. If not, the typical response would be to just leave it there, because you don't want to disrupt the ground, more than you already have. But with that said, the easement also says that it can only be used for CO2. So no oil, gas, nothing like that can go through this line.
Kaylee, is that in the fine print that they can have that taken out?
Which part?
If you go bankrupt, that they can get that, whose responsibility is it to take it out of the ground at that point?
That would be us.
And you're bankrupt.
That would be, yeah, we would, but it's in the easement, so we would have to follow.
They're required to put some kind of a performance bond and
Yes.
decommissioning
I'd
bond.
like to know more about that.
and other things
I really
like
would.
that.
Okay.
And that's,
It's just hard, you saw the 45Q almost doubled in just with one vote that happened 3 weeks ago. I mean, the conversations were at, I don't know, 45, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, it was like 45 to $50, somewhere in that range.
Yes.
And that made this thing extremely viable. Well, now it's almost doubled, so it just makes you wonder,
What's going on?
well, it's just, we're trying to remove carbon from the atmosphere, right? It's hard to argue that it's not a good thing, but on the flip side of it, I'm just concerned that there's a lot of politics behind tax credits. And if this were to go away, then what's that model look like? Because at that point, you're gonna have to find a way to buy it back from the ethanol plants or something to that effect, because it's gonna be, I was like, think worst case scenario.
Well, just one other thing. So our role, responsibility, if the utility board approves this, is we have to hire an engineer and you have to reimburse us for that engineer. Can you tell me how that kind of works? If I send you a bill, you pay me in 30 days, or you?
That is something I would have to ask our project managers about. I'm not sure how that process works. But he's writing it down and I'll get with them and figure that out. But I know that they do, so you have your inspector that you hire and they pretty much decide like when we would be able to work. So if it's, we've had other counties worried about working when it's wet because the wind farms did that. So they had.
One of the big concern of farmers is and they showed this out at the Oakland meet, where they come in and it's muddy and it's mucky and they don't do the soil remediation correctly. And they just shove it in and call it good. And then is there a performance bond on this? Is what?
I guarantee it.
I guess
5 years, I think.
for the farmers, because you could see their farm crop where the soil wasn't disturbed was good, and then you get where the pipeline is and it's like withered away and they said, oh, that's good. And that was a big concern out there.
Yeah, we're paying 240% crop damage up front. So that's one of the things that we're doing. So it's 100 the first year, 80 the second year, 60 the
And I
third.
think that's good, but at the same time, these farmers make their living on this ground and they want to put back.
Yes, well, the inspector.
That's something you have to, we'll pay you this if it ain't right. I don't think they want to hear that. They want to hear that it's put back right. And your assurances are secondhand. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
They don't want to use that. They want their land back proper.
Yeah, and that's part of the ag inspector who will be out there watching. They will make sure that the soil is placed correctly.
Yeah, the compaction issues and all. I mean, we ran into this with wind energy. They come in and they're like, don't worry, no compaction. And then you look at the crops. Yeah. They got these beautiful, 8-foot tall corn, and all of a sudden you got this like big dip where their power lines come through. I think that's a huge concern. Now, just on the flip side of things, I mean, I got in the industry 13 years ago, and the amount of bushels per acre from when I got into what it is now is unbelievably different. And I think that trend will continue going into the future. So it's gonna be really hard to measure that. But on the other side, my understanding is that these companies are guaranteeing so many years they're obviously paying for it. And, you know, I do believe in good faith that they're trying to, you know, develop relationships with these people, so it's not a, I really hope you don't have to go down the eminent domain route, but, I don't know, I mean, that is a huge concern.
Yeah.
Okay, Kaylee?
Remember, they are an ag-based company.
Thanks so much for your presentation. This board may end up having other questions, and if they do, we'll call you back.
So,
Okay.
well, just so, if you can tell us the process, so if the utility board grants you approval, does somebody from Carbon Solutions come back here to Pot County and work on some sort of agreement with us?
As far as eminent domain,
No, as far as
The inspection that we're required.
The permits and everything they have to.
And I know you say you're talking to John.
mhm.
I don't know if we got any other county ground that you're going through or not, but, there's a potential chance you are going through, but, so does someone from Carbon Solutions, or is it you, or?
Yeah, so Riley, so he's the one who's gonna be working with John, and then I assume that the utility permits have to come to the board, you guys have to sign off on those? Or does John just?
It goes to Matt Wyatt's office for
Okay.
planning and zoning, they'll deal with it.
So typically, if it was to come to the board, we would show up for that board meeting. But we would probably just meet with him.
Are you talking to the people now?
Yes.
Yeah. Our goal is to keep an open channel of communication throughout the entire process. You know, we want to follow all the regulations and guidelines from the county, as far as, you know, brass tacks crossing roads, you know, especially John knows the roads better than we do, of course. So, you know, he can tell us, hey, they want to cross this road here. How deep you want it? Where's the ditch line? Basically just working with him, making sure everybody, especially the engineer, knows exactly where our pipe's gonna go, where it's gonna cross, how he wants us to cross it. If there's a variance in any way, like say, one of our construction managers say, hey, we'd like to cross this road this way, I can take that to John and be like, what do you think about this? You know, is this a proper way to cross your road? What do you know about this? Like, we uncovered a road that we were gonna cross the other day, and he was concerned about some erosion issues. So I can bring that information back to our engineers and say, hey, there's some serious erosion issues here. Let's look at the depth of where we need to be so we don't encounter that, you know, and we don't want people out there cleaning a ditch line and we're not deep enough and they run into it. So we're working with the engineers and really whoever wants to be involved in the process, you know, but we're always available. You can contact us anytime. The engineer can contact us anytime. So just want to keep everybody informed and keep everybody in the loop and make sure we're crossing roads on my end of the bargain, cross the roads the exact way, you know, the county sees fit for us to cross the roads, so.
I contacted your VP of Government Affairs and Marketing, Jake.
Jake,
Yeah.
yeah.
And just, I know we need to move on to the next subject, but I mean, one of the things that I wanted to reiterate to him from the board's perspective is that it's not that we're against the concept of what you're trying to accomplish. It's just that we're very much against a private entity using you know, public things like eminent domain for that purpose. So, and at the end of the day, this board really, we don't have a dogfight. We can be against it all we want, but it really doesn't matter. It's up to the people out there that own the property and Iowa Utilities Board. So I knowing that, know that we represent our residents, we're gonna do everything we possibly can to protect, support them. So I hope that you all can come to an amicable agreements on how this all works and how to do it.
We do too.
Not doing the domain. So anyway, I'm
Okay.
done.
Thanks again.
Thank y'all for your
Thank you,
time.
guys.
We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for enduring the hot seat.
That's no
And
problem.
I wrote the questions down. Hopefully we can get y'all an answer to some of those questions here pretty soon, so. No problem. There's this.
Okay, moving on.
Next up, we have Matt Wyatt, Director of Planning and Development, and Pam Calstrup, Zoning and Land Use Coordinator. Is Terry Brown gonna join us on the phone?
Going to be on the phone. Melvin, do you have the phone on?
I think it's on. I dialed it. It didn't say we were on.
Okay, I'm not sure we need Terry, but, This is a discussion and or decision on Pottawattamie County sub-award agreement. Amendment to provide federal assistance from the HMGP 4421. DR Pam, call strip, you are up.
Okay, so these are, we just received notification that we were awarded additional funding for the next round of houses, which is narrowed down to 10 now.
10 left, or are you saying 10?
10 that want, that are still volunteering to be purchased. And then we also received notification from Iowa Economic Development that they will cover the 15% local match.
That's very important. You say that again?
Local match will be covered by Iowa Economic Development.
So what's happened is they're closing out the projects in Mills County and Fremont County. There was leftover funding from those projects. They were able to bring those back. For your efforts and our state reps' efforts, going to the Iowa Flood Board, making sure that they were aware that, hey, we had damages here too. Maybe not physical damages, but lack of access to is just as bad as physical damage. So the majority of these homes were not necessarily damaged in the 2019 flood, but they were cut off from access during the 2019 flood for a period of about 6 months. So the 10 people, still a voluntary program. It's voluntary all the way up until the day, they sign papers on it and close. But right now we have 10 who are on board. That leaves us with probably less than 10 houses in that northern section of the floodplain. And the board had decided when we came to you back originally after the event, 2018, we don't where do we start at on this buyout process? And we went with the recommendation of, we're going to start at the river, those most at risk for another flood event happening, and just work our way back towards the bluff. And so we've stuck with that pattern, and these 10 will be kind of closer over towards the bluff side, but it should be the last of the properties that wanted bought out.
Another kind of big question. So property values went sky high over the last, 2 or 3 years. Are these folks just set at whatever that appraised rate was from 3 years ago?
So the guidelines pertaining to this are, what FEMA has us do is we had the appraisals all done. Remember, Costa County, it cost us about $24,000 to have that done to the day before the flood event happened, 2019. That's the estimated value that they go off of. Those are the purchase offers that will go out is at that price.
Okay, Matt, there's 12 on this list.
There's 12, 2 of those pulled back within the last day. So we can show you.
In 2011, were some of these flood on also?
2011, these properties were definitely flooded at that time. That was when our damage, in 2011, that flood was where it kind of reached the height and the homes had water in them and they were damaged. And then we did a large buyout process at that time. These homes did not sustain, they were not substantially damaged is the terms we'll use, because that's what we do when we talk about floodplain development. Substantial damage is 50% or more of the value of the property. They did not reach that mark, so they either did repairs and or elevated. We had one in the last buyout of it, Germonti's home. It was probably the most visible when you first leave Council Bluffs. Going up I-29, there was a home that elevated quite high. So he did that to be able to rebuild it. He elevated his structure, put floodgates in underneath of it. FEMA actually contributed $30,000 to that project for him to elevate like that. But in the end, 2019, it's nice that your structure is elevated, but if you can't get access to it for 6 months, it makes it difficult to remain there.
Is that one? That's gone, correct?
It is, that was purchased in the last round of buyouts and demoed.
So are any of these parcels more than an acre?
None are significant in size, no.
So they parceled out their farm ground then?
A few did, and then the property owners that did not, they're still smaller parcels, yeah.
Matt, when we take them down, do we also rip out the septic?
Yes.
Okay.
And plug the wells.
And what?
and plug the wells.
Okay,
I should say, we do not rip out the septic. They pump the septic tanks, collapse them in, backfill them. Sand, dirt, I mean, it's all kind of sand in that area, so.
okay.
The basement walls are torn down to 3 feet below the surface, collapsed in, remain there on site. Some concrete leaves, but not much, so.
Are most of these, parcels potentially got, someone we can lease them to take the maintenance away from us?
We do hope so. That's the process we're starting now with the first round buyouts that we did, is getting interested parties on who wants to lease them. We have to get those leases again approved through FEMA, have everything signed off on before. The flood buyouts are just something that hopefully at the federal level, something will change. We have to do yearly inspections of the properties, whether or not they're leased out or not. Every 5 years, we have to do a major inspection, which is mark a GPS point at that location, snap pictures, send in a large report to it. And it seems unsustainable to continue to do that into perpetuity for who knows however many years. The federal government doesn't have a year limit on it right now to say, hey, after 10 years, you can stop with these inspections. Nothing has changed, but at some point in time, the county's gonna wind up owning so much of a patchwork quilt of parcels up there that are footprints of houses and things.
And most from 2011 are leased back.
Mhm.
And the county attorney, Leanne,
Because I thought we couldn't lease them or do.
you can lease them for farm purposes,
Okay,
yes.
Firewood purposes,
Mhm.
we have firewood leases that were done on them. We have farm leases that were done on them.
Okay.
So,
That's good news. So
yeah.
there's 12 on the list, there's basically 10 that we can
10 still interested.
handle.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, yeah. It's unfortunate, again, it took this long, but it's nothing new. It's the federal government, state.
We'll manage expectations on this round of buyouts as well. Originally, we were told, hey, we did the first round of buyouts, we would be able to just extend contracts with the people that we already had and utilize them in the same fashion. We've now been told that the RFPs have to be reissued. And that is for, your legal, asbestos, demo, all of those pieces. So the RFPs are gonna get released. We'll go back through that selection process again and,
So what's realistic timeline you think to get this done and over with? I mean,
I would say.
August of next year.
it won't be this fall.
There'll be portions of it completed this fall, but we won't be, I don't think we'll be purchasing any houses
Yeah.
yet.
These folks know, right? So they're under the understanding that it's gonna take.
We had one person ask if they could hold off till June of next year.
Yeah.
If they could close in June of next year, so.
So is it of the 10, are there, how many are occupied?
I'd say they're probably all occupied.
Uh,
Maybe one's not.
Summies aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, one's rented. One of the west is not occupied. Another person is constructing a new house now. Maybe half, I don't know.
We gotta go through the whole process, can they go get appraisal or something?
But
Well,
it's
it'd be
the
appraisal, it's the
2019.
date. The
That-
date.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You
have to-
I know, that's the appraisal we had done.
But they'd have to do the same.
It'd have to be
They-
the
the appraiser
2019.
would have to- If the appraiser does it, he has to go back and figure out what it would be on that date.
Right, they can disagree with the appraisal if they so chose to.
Okay.
They could go try to find a different appraiser who could look back to September, March of 2019, whatever it was, and
They
say,
don't lose any benefit by paying that guy to do that.
yeah, I mean, that's.
Time.
Okay.
So we were going to publish the RFPs September 2nd, Friday, give them 30 days, which would put it at September 30th. Then we'll bring it to you to approve the contracts and
We're still doing that through MAP, correct?
map.
Correct.
We're going to maintain MAPPA because we have to have a COG. We're just amending their contract. Legal services abstracting, asbestos demos have to go back out.
Who's doing that
Last-
right now?
Last time we had a couple pull out at the last minute. Are they on this
No,
list
it's gonna
again?
be-
No.
Okay,
Once they pulled
They
out, we don't
withdrew.
reapproach them.
Mhm.
okay,
The, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. And the, correct me if I'm wrong here.
You probably,
If, did you say I am?
oh,
Those, if someone pulls out and decides not to move forward, and it floods again, then their appraisal is post-flood appraisal, is that right?
no, it would be, if there was another disaster that were to happen, then it would be the day before that disaster.
Even if they backed out of this one?
So the majority, these
There's a hang up in there somewhere, man.
all of these people had the ability to have the buyout happen in 2012, chose not to. So whatever those property values increased from 12 to 19, you know, is just pre-date, pre the day of the disaster, so.
Okay.
Then they have the ability to walk away the day of the closing, so.
Correct.
Correct.
How many, do you have a rough guess of how many are still, didn't sign on to this, or how many?
I think it's under 10. I think it's about under 10 homes left in that area.
So we're not in situations like 40 families that we're trying to evacuate from the flood?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if you look back to 93 to where we are today, I mean, there's been a huge loss of.
Getting them out of the flood.
Ma'am, thanks for your persistence and working on this and making sure that we get the opportunity for
An ordinance for that.
our match covered. I mean, that's very important. I mean, that's a
Right.
lot of money.
Ryan played a key part in that too, though. He's
So I
doing some
appreciate that.
map up.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Next up,
I was surprised they didn't have an ordinance, but they didn't.
next up, Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and Ryan Tersteeg, with HDM. Discussion and or decision to approve change order number 9. Still support pricing. Jason, you're up.
This change order would add $4,647 to the total price of this courthouse addition contract. It's for steel support for the rooftop air handling units, and I'll kind of let Ryan explain to the board.
Yep, so this is for steel for 3 of the main rooftop units for the addition. It was not expressly covered in the original contract documents, the supporting steel. There's a detail that was included for supporting the openings in the roof at the ends of the rooftop units where the ducts go through, but the central supports, if you will, were not expressly covered.
How come that was missed?
Just size of the project, and I guess I don't have a good reason why it was missed. There's always things that, you know, we like to have a perfect set as possible, but there's always things that get missed. So that's part of the reason why we try to include a contingency in our estimates for items like this that do get omitted.
We tried our darndest to budget correctly. Just,
So Brian, are you trying to ask them how much of this cost HGM is gonna cover?
yes. That would be my next question. Why wouldn't HDM cover the whole thing?
So if those details were included on day one in the original bid package, it would have been in the contractor's original bid, so it's still an add value to the project.
Very good explanation.
Not.
Jason, how, you got a tally of where we're at with
Overs.
You know, I do, I don't have it in front
you
of
gotta
me.
get today, if you don't mind, just give it to us at some point, so we just have an idea. I mean, have we gone beyond what our contingency was yet?
We're not over our 20%.
Okay. That was another thing that's really weird with HGM, by the way. Your contingency percentages are always different on every project, and it sometimes blows my mind. But anyway.
So, is this something that's gonna delay, or is this still that they can
No,
go?
they've already acquired the steel and they already have some of it in for 2 of the units.
Okay.
So,
Okay, great.
I hate to do this, but I'll approve.
So you
Motion to approve.
made the motion?
I got the motion.
Second.
Any other discussion for either?
What was that amount?
Jason?
46, 47.
4,647.
Did you have something?
No.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'm sorry, Jason, was that your recommendation?
Yes.
All right, thanks. All right. Next up,
Thanks.
we have Mark Shoemaker from our Director of Conservation. Discussion, decision to terminate the farm lease with Nick Hansen, doing business as Hansen Brothers Land and Livestock LLC. Mark, you're up.
Yeah, these are 2 properties up near Crescent. We have about 5 parcels across the county that we cash rent. One of these properties is the Pheasants Forever food plot, and the other one is called Crescent Wildlife Area. It was a FEMA buyout a few years ago on the Tiedemann piece. We have the Pheasants Forever food plot. After the flood of 2019, we were having a real difficult time controlling the weeds. So we made the decision to cash rent this out for 2 years to get rid of the weeds, and then we won't cash rent that again. We'll convert that back to natives. That was kind of the agreements we had with Pheasants Forever. And then the other piece is we typically, after 2 years, we advertise these again and rebid them if we want to keep farming there. There's about 12 acres that we farm, or that's farmed at Crescent Wildlife Area.
Mark?
Yeah.
Why, if we go 2-year lease, wouldn't it naturally just go off, or what?
You have to terminate the farm lease by September 1st.
Okay.
Same situation.
And then he can reapply.
Yeah, we could seek out bids again. We probably usually do that in the wintertime.
Okay.
And we do advertise those and seek out bids again
Okay.
for those areas that we cash rent.
I'll make a motion to approve the termination.
Well, there's 2 of them here, but.
Correct.
They're both with.
So that food plot one,
Yeah.
how many acres is that?
Is
that even
I think
an
it's about
acre?
14 acres total.
Is it?
Yeah, and I can't remember the exact date that it was given to the supervisors by Pheasants Forever, and the supervisors then decided to turn that over to the Conservation Board for management.
Okay.
So that's how we got it, so.
Good move.
I wasn't doing but you were.
Yeah.
You want us doing that?
Well, not you in particular, but previous versions of you all.
Whatever happened to the gravel that was on that plot?
There's probably still some there, I would imagine. So.
That always just sat there. They redone that, they just let it sit there for 30 years.
Okay, Supervisor, so your motion was the first one
To
for
approve
the Crescent
both.
Wildlife Area?
Yes, okay.
I don't know why they're on here twice, but they are, so we'll do it that way.
Well, there's
2
two
pieces.
different, they're across the road from each other.
Yeah, they're across the interstate, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, any other discussion from Mark?
Yeah, so is any plan on that right now?
I think they have corn or beans on the, yeah, they'll have to get
So
their crop
basically
off
terminate
there.
this lease once they get their crop out there.
Well, it has to
Yeah,
be terminated.
The
Notice
lease
by
actually goes
September
through,
1st.
I think, like March of 23.
Got it.
So they have that time to get their crop off.
Okay. Motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, rocking on Supervisor Shea, this next one is for the Pheasants Forever food plot.
Would make a motion to approve the termination of
Second.
said lease.
Second.
Any other discussion from Mark on this one? We have a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thanks,
Boy,
Mark.
that's a long day to sit here for that one.
Next up, we have discussion decision to approve and authorize the chair to sign law enforcement services contract with Pottawattamie County Sheriff's Department and of the city of Avoca.
So moved.
If you remember
Second.
correctly, when we did all the other ones, they were still looking at whether they were gonna.
Actually, even last week, they were still trying to decide.
So,
I was surprised that they moved ahead.
Well, they must have not got a sheriff then. So they're gonna
Police.
start.
you made that motion,
Yeah,
Brian?
yeah, I did.
I second.
Okay. We don't have anybody here to talk about it, but
So,
it's the same as all the other ones. It's fine. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, General
so this
Limerick.
one's, just real quick, so this one runs,
It's dated July 1st, Scott.
Through June
Okay.
30th of '23.
okay, so they're gonna pay for July 1st?
It's a,
They've been
it's a
out
per
there.
capita.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean-
so I know that Andy was out there having these discussions with him prior to all this, so.
Oh, yeah, I know, they've been
They're-
talking to him for a long time.
I don't think they're gonna come back on that month, July, August, and say anything about it.
Do you think they're gonna hire another?
I don't know.
They've been trying for a while.
Well, it's a strange setup.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have the capacity to have a whole,
Correct.
public police outfit, so it's difficult.
And actually, it's cheaper for them to go this way than set their own
Yeah, cheaper
department.
for them, not cheaper for us, but.
Well,
I mean, it
think
it
you
is what
gotta-
it is. I mean, we're, the size of the county we are, I mean, that's just what we're up against, so.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, Jenna Limerick, Director of HR, discussion.
Did we vote on that?
No.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, I marked it down, but sometimes I mark them down before
Yeah, we
you vote.
Avoca's,
Jenna Limerick, discussion
Sure.
decision on employee handbook update pertaining to sick leave donation. Jenna, you're up.
In regards to the sick leave donation, how it was written prior, which you'll see there on number 4, was that employees were only allowed to donate to other employees that were in their same union. So when I send out the all-employee announcement asking for sick leave donation, it would say something like, an AFSCME union member has requested sick leave donation, only AFSCME union members can donate. And so it's been brought up a couple times over the past couple years about why do we do that? And then it's been brought up again. And so I've reached out to the unions and asked, well, why? And it's not written in the union contracts that say that. The union contracts say refer to the employee handbook. And so this is in the employee handbook. But I reached out to find out what was the reason for this intentionally, because our sick leave donation is hour for hour, not dollar for dollar. So it doesn't matter what anyone gets paid. If someone that gets paid a higher rate donates to someone that gets paid a lower rate, it's still dollar for dollar. And everyone earns the same amount of sick time. Our sick caps are different in the union contracts, but everyone earns the same amount of sick time each month. So we're asking that this be taken out and that anyone can donate to anyone.
It's not dollar for dollar, it's hour for.
It's hour for hour. What did I say? Sorry, it is hour for hour, not dollar for dollar.
I'm in favor of it. I'll make a motion.
I'll second
Approve.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's something that even comes up very often.
I think
so
it's a
not a big deal.
Well, I think
Good
employees
deal
ought to be
for-
able to, yeah, I mean, you got an employee on one department that wants to donate to someone else they know.
and someone's sick leave.
Right.
It could really matter to those people.
Okay, any other questions for Jen on that? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, the board discussion decision to approve the Hungry Canyon Alliance annual membership fee of $4,750.
So,
It wasn't that long ago. I don't know, maybe it's included in our packet as well.
It was.
How much that our partnership with Hungry Canyon provides Pottawattamie County, and it's a substantial amount of money. We're all aware that that goes to save deterioration of farm ground from specific creeks or rivers
Saves the bridges, actually, too.
in our county, so.
You got a motion?
I do not.
You got
I made the
Schultz.
motion. Oh, I
Yeah,
do.
did you second?
Yes.
I thought I heard the stuff over there.
Okay. All right, well done. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, we have discussion and or decision to approve payment of fiscal year 22-23 partnership support for the Western Iowa Tourism Region for $500.
Just says discussion, but
It says discussion and or decision.
okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I-
But wasn't this the one Mark said was defunct?
Well, they're not defunct, they're trying to hang on. There were three tourism, I guess they're still there, Western, Central, and Eastern tourism regions. And they had always been funded through the Iowa Economic Development Authority in the Iowa Tourism Region Office. This year, they're not funding them. So it looks like maybe some of these regions might be lacking a lot of funds to stay in, to keep functioning. But the Western Iowa Tourism Region Board and Director want to try to keep going. So I was talking to Mark Ekman about it, and the CVB does not, we're not gonna contribute. His recommendation was that we don't. Did you ever talk to Mark?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Okay, and, well, it's up to you guys whether you wanna keep.
What would the total budget be for this?
Oh, I don't know what their budget is. Shirley Phillips from Sac County's been the director for years, and,
Well, I just feel like if we deny this today and it's a big need, that they can come to us and explain that need and we'll review it then.
And we can table it, bring it in and have a discussion.
Should we table it or just?
I think I'm good with that.
I mean, it's up to the board, whatever you wanna do, guys.
it's something we always did automatically, because they were doing,
They were functioning.
so there was some reason, I don't know
If they're not
why.
function, let them come in and talk to us. I like tabling.
I don't know why the state decided to quit funding them for one reason or the other, I don't know.
Okay, we'll just, no action taken on that, Mr. Hauser.
Okay.
Jen, has anyone signed for public comment?
No.
Okay, all right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to, wait a second, before I do that, I wanna pass this out. I spoke with Matt Wilbur, and we can take a look at this. That is this is a commission, a compensation, condemnation commission that we are short some members on. And I'd like for us to take a look at these specific categories of citizens that can serve on this commission and delegate a supervisor to fill those open spots. Now, we can all do it. As you can see, it's a little fuzzy, but our first one is the ag landowner.
So, can these be appointed public people too?
Pardon me?
So can people be appointed to this, like we can appoint people to these vacancies right now, right?
Absolutely.
Other than us.
We want to get them filled up right away.
So we had that one individual that sent us an email requesting to get on some boards, so I mean, that individual would definitely fit this one. There's 2 vacancies, so and there's only one of us board members that can be a ag guy, so.
Oh, no. These are citizens that need to serve on this, not
Okay,
us.
well, you said board, so you said we can do that, so I was like, well, got it.
It's our responsibility to
fill
appoint
them.
people
All
to
right,
fill.
we're good. Yes, so I got someone
On what?
for this first one.
Okay, well,
Mr. Buckerty.
there's two vacancies, and there's the third name on that list just passed. So there's 3 vacancies on the ag landowner. So
Well, I think we should ask that individual,
Agree.
if he's interested.
I mean, that's okay. Who would like to take the ag land people?
I can do that.
Okay, can you get that, done in a month or so? At the
Yeah,
latest?
I had, well, like Steve Pierce was on there. You know, he just died. I got him on there. And same way, I got his wife a position on one of these.
Okay, so you'll take the.
I can do the ag land, yeah.
All right,
How often do these guys meet? Just once a year?
maybe never.
Was it a review board? Oh,
You know,
Seems like
if there is a.
we went to one.
If there is a dispute between, the value of a property that's either going to be, in the process of condemnation or eminent domain, that's where this comes into play. So we're just trying to get ahead of this in case we need to use it at some point in time. There's a business people. You guys can see that.
They're full.
Well, they are full, that's correct. Their business ones are full. The city property owners, we have
Does that be any city within the county?
any city.
I'll take that one.
You're awesome, Brian.
Wow.
I don't say that very often, you're right.
No, I don't think you ever have.
Next up, we have a Realtor, Scotty, since you're kind of,
Well, I think I just would send it over to Amy over at the
you'll do that?
realtor office, yeah.
Okay. Make sure that all of these people on here still want to serve, and then,
Well,
kind of go from there.
who wrote the okay on these things?
I had Jeanette simply check addresses to make sure that they were, not either outside of a city or in the city, you know, like an
So
ag
should we
land.
check with these current ones and make sure they're okay?
Yeah,
All right.
like, now this wouldn't make any difference, but Ryan Riders, there's an individual on this sheet that moved outside the limits of Council Bluffs. So he couldn't serve as a city. You follow me, it's that kind of thing. Yes, I understand that, I'm just, that's an example.
Okay.
I follow.
Okay. That's it?
Before you adjourn, can I invite you guys? I've scheduled a tour of ES&S, our election systems and software company. I'll send you an email reminder. So if any of you guys are interested in going, my concern is if more than, that's on, in a couple of weeks, we'll do that. I'm invited, senators and representatives, a couple IT guys, some people from each party, just to go see how they build these election machines and the security that they put into their components and hardening their internet or their, whatever they do as far as security. I thought it'd be interesting just to go over there. If anybody's interested, huh?
I would like to see it.
My concern is if more than two come, whether we want to post it and have it made public, because there are election deniers. One has already been trying to invite themselves to the tour, and so didn't want to, I don't know how that'd work. If more than two of you want to go and you post it, whether you can you post it by invitation only, I don't know.
I'll call the business folks
Okay.
and make sure they still want to stay on. Okay.
So let me know if any of you are interested. I'll just send an email out.
Invite, yeah.
I'll send an email invite out, and
That's one off on Giles Road. Is it the one on Lamar you're talking about?
it's off John Galt Boulevard.
Or L Street?
Yeah,
You see
it's
the-
just south of L Street.
Yeah, yeah.
I never go that way, but it's pretty, it'd take about 20 minutes to get there. I'm inviting Craig to go along too, and Andrew, but he couldn't make it.
Is this the first step of the auditor's office requesting more money?
No,
Oh, that's awesome.
no,
He didn't need it, he's an eagle.
I don't know what that's worth. Sell it on eBay, put it in the auditor's budget.
Pretty cool. It's a pretty nice hardware you got there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, with that, we have a couple of resolutions I'd like to get signed before anybody takes off. And then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Meeting at